No, you gotta turn it the other way.
Once upon a time in the fairy tale land of Colorado, 7 dwarks embarked on a quest to find relief from the heat in the white snow of the mountains. For a couple decades, the 7 dwarks have been venturing into the Colorado backcountry, but those trips have become less frequent as kids and old age have crept up on us. Plan A was to go to some beautiful lakes outside of Leadville, but those plans were thwarted by the abundant wildfires across the state. Plan B also didn't come to fruition, so we found a Plan C, which was to go to the Mount Zirkel Wilderness area. I also had a number of scintillating experiments that I was eager to try out in the backcountry. This is my gear. This is my hammock tent, and it's a cheap one. These are my grandpa's old flies, Granddad's flies, and I'm just going to take one on this trip, and I'm going to see if I can catch a fish with one of Granddad's flies. Here's what we got for food. Now, most importantly, over here we've got our powdered beer. Yes, powdered beer, and you can see more about that later in the video. If that fails, which I expect it to in many capacities, I've got some real beer. Got our trout fixings here. So I'm a pescatarian. There's no pesca here, but we're hoping we'll get some while we're up there. Counting on it, in fact, because that's all my dinners right there. This is part of my film gear. We'll see how it goes. With the lighter tent and no dinners, my pack weighed a reasonable 45 pounds. Got up at 5 and headed out early. I'm just passing the road that I would normally take, but it's closed because of the forest fire. So I have to go up through Wyoming and then back down into Colorado. Got record heat down here and wildfires across the state. Climate change is upon us. I made it through Wyoming and back into Colorado without getting arrested for these strange balloons in the back of my car, and met up with a few of the guys at a cafe in Walden for breakfast. We stocked up on flies at the local fly shop and then headed southwest into the forest, where we met up with the rest of the crew. I wanted to test out the balloon cam for aerial footage of the lakes because national parks, including Rocky Mountain National Park, do not allow drones. So I was hoping this would work and I could try that in the park at some point. It worked okay in the lot, although it was a little spinny in the wind and the trail was looking a little narrow. And then we were off, the 7 dwarks, Indefatigable, Tenkara, Disco, Stumbly, Pokey and Cookie, and last but not least, Wacky. The plan was to hike about 6 miles in, past Rainbow Lakes, and camp for a couple nights somewhere near the Slide Lakes, then head back out. Doesn't say anything about balloons. There it is. We're down to 2. We're these 2 balloons.
It's hard to walk with balloons in the forest. And I think I'm gonna faint. I made it most of the way, but then the balloon started to pop. Just this one balloon was left, and that wasn't enough to float the GoPro, so. Anybody want a hit? It's a some good shit.
To get to Lower Slide Lake, we took a little shortcut up some amazing slick rock where the outlet comes down.
We can do it!
We set up camp near the inlet.
Now for the pièce de résistance. This is really looking just like a beer. It's always good when your beer's a little chunky. This is it's a cloudy sour. Oh, a little grass in there is probably pretty good. This is acceptable. You know something's good when it's called acceptable. But hey man, that's a start. That's a start. Doesn't this look like... No, you gotta drink something.
What is it?
It's beer, man.
What? Protein shake?
Yeah, it's like a protein beer.
Is this your non-alcoholic?
No, it's got alcohol in it, dude.
Close up to that.
Oh, look at that. I mean, that's... It's hops, man. I like the grit.
It's like the discard from like a brewery or something.
Yeah. Fuck these guys.
After catching a little buzz, it was time to go catch dinner. I made a pecan-crusted trout, but it didn't stack up to Indefatigable's jalapeno trout. My hammock tent failed in multiple ways, mostly that I was freezing my butt off. So I set it up on the rocky ground and had a fitful night of sleep. When I came back from some morning fishing, the other Dworks had decided it was time to move on. Our spot at Lower Slide Lake just didn't quite have the right feng shui, and we had heard good things about Roxy Ann Lake over the pass. It was another 4 miles there, mostly up at the beginning and then downhill the rest of the way. We found the snow white and took the precious substance for cooling our beers. After a quick dip in the lake, it was time for another go at the beer. This time I started with just the bourbon, added the beer powder to that, and just a pinch of hops, then water, and a little too much of the plop plop fizz fizz, little orange bitters, and it was time to give it a shot.
This one has too much of the plop plop fizz fizz.
We set up camp and then it was time to go find dinner again. We walked around the whole lake and it had these beautiful sandy beaches and even a couple islands that we fished from. I caught one keeper early, but then just a few smaller ones around the rest of the lake. I put on Granddad's fly, and when I was just about back around the lake, I took one toss just off the inlet and had a big one on.
He is doing the underwater camera, isn't he?
It was about a 16-inch cutthroat, the largest fish I caught on the trip. A nice sized fish. I did see larger ones in the lake though. And I caught a couple more with Granddad's fly before I lost it. I inexpertly filleted the fish to allow the marinade to get into all the meat.
All the 7 Dworks got their fish on.
For Granddad's fish, I used a Thai marinade, and it turned out to be delicious. The Dworks partook of revelry and merriment into the wee hours, including a little inadvertent stargazing. A little groggily, I woke to find that my sleeping arrangements had gone quite well. A little au naturel cliff jump will get the blood flowing. Then we had the long 10-mile slog out, with a few stops along the way to marvel at the wonders. The old Dworks survived and they continued to hike happily ever after.
Well, at least I don't have to carry these fucking things around.